Hello everyone, how's it going? My name's Lewis and welcome to Mids Boxing. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Frank Warren card that took place at the Brentwood Centre. It was a fairly stacked card, there were some decent domestic clashes in there, so without further ado, we're just going to get into it. So at the top of the card it was Anthony Yarde versus Sequeira. The size difference between the two was, notable. Yarde being a very big light heavyweight and Sequeira just looked like a blown up super middleweight. I almost feel sorry for Anthony Yarde. I think he's been promoted very badly. You just see his profile and his commercial worth is not what it should be. He walked to the ring in front of 200 people. Most people have gone after the Garton versus Corcoran fight, and it just shows that, with the level of opposition that he's facing, people are interested. I think it was a very measured performance by Yarde. Obviously, he has to be what's in front of him, and it's not his fault that he's facing these lower level opposition. But he took his time and eventually finished him in the fourth. Going forward now, I think Warren has to put Yarde into a respectable fight against a decent level of opposition, or else I think fans, he don't get many fans already, but I don't think anybody's going to take him seriously at all. So hopefully we can see him in a domestic clash. I think the likes of Buatsi, Burton, Buglione would be brilliant fights to see where Yarde is at the moment. So key support was Jonny Garton versus Gary Corcoran for the British welterweight title. This was an absolutely brilliant fight all the way through. It was, fought at such a tempo. And that's what you get with Gary Corcoran. Every single fight that he's in is just an absolute cracker. I think going into the fight, I expected Corcoran to win just because he's fought at a high level. But that being said, Jonny Garton, he proved me wrong, and I'm happy to hold my hands up and say he fought brilliantly. The fight was obviously tarnished a little bit with crowd trouble and stuff, which is going to be expected when you've got a Millwall fan. But putting that to one side, I think it was a brilliant spectacle for British boxing. Hopefully now he's got this British title, he can have some brilliant fights with, contenders in that division. Chelli defeated Umar Sadiq in a points decision over 8 rounds. First 4 rounds of the fight, I wasn't really impressed with Sadiq at all. I don't think he looked anything special. He looked clumsy, and just had this really unorthodox style about him. And Chelli being the shorter man, he kept on coming in and catching Sadiq, and his defence looked very suspect. Going into the sort of 5th round, Sadiq actually started to box a little bit and, used his height advantage and his reach advantage against Chelli, but I think it was a little bit too late. I think we have to applaud both fighters, 4-0 versus 3-0, that they come up against each other so early in the career. And I don't think a loss really damages sort of either of their reputation. Still only 5 fights in now, Chelli's sort of established himself as a brilliant top young fighter. I mean, he's only 21, is it? So he's one to watch for the future, I'd say, and I think he has a really entertaining style and he fought a good fight. Gorman defeated Sokolowski in quite a dull, sort of very uneventful fight. They obviously fought before, and I think they've sparred together before, so it was one of them where they knew each other inside out, and Gorman is obviously, the better fighter and didn't have to do much to win the fight. I'd like to see Gorman stepped up a level now. Obviously there's talk of the Dubois fight happening sometime next year, but I'd like to see him against some, decent opponents, because I think he is very talented. Obviously very young as well, and I think, that British heavyweight scene at the moment is very exciting. Skeete defeated Valencia within 2 rounds. Obviously the loss in Spain for Skeete wasn't ideal. I think he just looked overwhelmed by the occasion and the atmosphere, and obviously he got defeated fairly clinically. I do really rate Skeete as a fighter, and obviously there's some brilliant fights he can have at the British level, and maybe he can have another shot at sort of moving up again. So that's the bulk of the fights on the card. I think it was a decent night of boxing, some good sort of domestic level clashes. I am quite enjoying the Warren cards in terms of, the domestic fights and clashes that are going on, but in terms of commercial worth and whatever, he's just falling behind Hearn, rapidly now. I think before, if you could argue that they were rivals, I think now Hearn's just, levels and levels and levels above Warren. But that being said, it was a good night of boxing. There was some 50-50 fights on there that were entertaining, and it was a good chance to see some young prospects again. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Anthony Yarde going forward. It's just a question of how long can, Warren protect him before putting him up against, a decent level fighter that's, respectable and going to give him some credit. Because so far for Yarde, it's been farcical. And, don't get me wrong, I respect him. I think he's a decent fighter. I think he's very dangerous, very explosive, and, he's in brilliant shape. But he hasn't come up against somebody that's actually come to win. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the card and what you think Yarde should do going forwards now. Thank you for watching. I'm Lewis, and I'll see you next time.